folks, lyarri here. Today we're reacting to "The Music Industry is Broken" by Gooden. I like music. I like learning about how messed up the music industry is. I like Gooden. I feel like this makes sense as to why we're watching this video today. Okay, let's go. Oh,
The music industry is in an interesting place right now because on one hand, it's more accessible than it's ever been. It's more democratic than it's ever been.
true.
And if recent trends continue, it will soon be more profitable than it's ever been. But also,
That's cool, I guess.
doesn't it kind of feel like it's completely falling apart?
Last week, 6 of the top 50 trending songs on Spotify were AI
Kind
generated.
of.
If I was my daughter's age, if I'm looking at what musicians are doing now, I wouldn't want to do this.
If you have a business model and that goes up 10, 15%, you're in a lot of trouble. Well, it's doubled.
But there is a refusal to offer even a semblance of a sustainable revenue source.
I'm owed $30,000 in music royalties that I will probably never
A
see.
lot of bands that you love, they're gonna call it quits in the next 2 years.
The industry as a
Good
whole
montage.
is raking in more and more money every year. But as with so many things in life, the majority of that is concentrated at the top. Record labels, tech executives, and monopolistic middlemen make billions, while the bottom 80% of artists are forced into a death match with each other. As their costs go up and the revenue goes down, many smaller acts are starting to get priced out of the industry altogether. I want to talk about all the things that are causing this, but let's start with Spotify, since nobody has been more influential to the current state of music than the company that fundamentally changed the way we listen to it. My main source for a lot of the
Makes
information in this
sense.
video is this book by Liz Pelly called Mood Machine. And I would say my biggest takeaway is that Spotify has never, at any point, cared about artists. In fact, they've routinely done just about everything they can to both undermine and replace them. I think it's important to point out that the company wasn't even founded with the intention of being a music streaming service. The plan from the beginning was just to make a website that could sell ads. The content used to drive traffic to those ads was almost completely irrelevant.
Should it be product search or should it be movies or audiobooks? And then we ended up with music.
The only reason they eventually decided on music was because they felt like there was a market for it. I'm pretty sure if they thought they'd sell more ads on pictures of feet, then that's what they would have done.
And like I it's really funny that the idea was we need to make a website that is good at serving ads to people. I feel like out of everything you can think of, right? Like movies, like TV shows, like surely music, like like it doesn't cost that much in terms of storage. B, like people listen to that like on repeat. There's lots of like stopping points between songs of stuff and ad through. Like it makes sense to start there, but like the fact it took a whole journey is kind of funny.
And maybe I'd still be subscribed. And I don't bring this detail up because this is my first day on Earth and I'm just now learning that businesses like to make money. I know that's usually the case. I just like to point this out because it annoys me how much Spotify's founders have tried to retroactively apply this nobility to their cause.
I did this not because I thought we could make a ton of money. I did this because I cared about the problem, right? I cared about music and I cared about compensating artists fairly.
The problem was to distribute music, not to give you money.
Guys, we were never trying to profit. We just wanted to save the music industry. And I swear, we're gonna start saving it any day now. To be fair, it's easy to overly romanticize the time before music streaming apps as if back then everything was working perfectly and artists were just raking in revenue left and right. 20 years ago, the industry was struggling. Piracy had become a huge problem. Once people realized they could download a
I'm old
band's
enough to
entire
vaguely remember
discography
this.
for free, why would they keep spending 99 cents just to buy one song? And unless
I
the
was
plan
like
was
8.
to arrest millions of teenagers for using BitTorrent, the most realistic way to counteract this was to create something just slightly more convenient in comparison so that people would see the value in paying for it.
Yeah, like it's funny because like I kind of technically used LimeWire for a tiny bit, but like when I really got into like music and stuff, and I was a little bit late to that, was with Spotify releasing, and I used Pandora too. Um, yeah, I used Spotify pretty early when it came to the
problem for
US.
Spotify was that even while that income grew exponentially throughout the early 2010s, they just weren't able to keep enough of it for themselves. Sure, the only reason people use the app at all is to listen to the music that artists put on it, but that doesn't mean they should get most of the money. I won't rest until the guy who said, "What if we put Napster on phone?" is worth $10 billion. oh, cool, I guess I can rest now. Now, the way monetization works on Spotify is that about 70% of the revenue that's made from subscriptions and advertisements are paid out to music rights holders, while Spotify pays their expenses with the remaining 30%. Now, I want you to remember those two numbers because I'm going to refer back to them a lot in this video, and I'm going to show you how that graph has slowly been morphing in the opposite direction. But let's start with the 70%. It's a common misconception that artists on Spotify are paid per stream, when technically that's not true. People will often throw around a figure of like 0.3 cents, but that's just an estimate, and it changes all the time. In reality, there's a fixed pool of revenue that gets distributed every month based on the total number of streams across the entire platform. So if an artist were to have 1% of all the streams, they would be owed 1% of all the revenue. This means that while there's obviously a correlation between the amount of plays a song gets and the amount of royalties that artist receives, it's not as if a third of a penny gets deposited into their account every time you press play. Spotify is a zero-sum game, so unfortunately, the more artists who succeed on it, the more the revenue pool gets spread thin. This is where I think they should be taking a much harsher stance than they currently are on AI-generated music. I don't care how much the technology is improving, AI slop is soulless, it's completely unnecessary, and more than anything else, it's theft. The only way it exists at all is because it was trained without consent on decades worth of stolen data. And yet,
I guess like because Spotify is like making the same amount of money off of like okay, let's say like you have like 5 million view listens to a song, right? Or like there are 5 million listens a month. And you have artist one who currently has one song, they're the only song on the platform. And so they're getting all of those listens. And so like obviously like okay, if it's like that simple and you add a second artist, they're probably gonna increase like bring their own folks in listening. But if you're at the scale that Spotify is, where there's all of these artists and there's all of these AI creators who are like just pumping out random content, like they're not really bringing new viewers in, they're just further diluting the pool, especially with stuff like Spotify's like algorithmic like daily mix feature and all that. I can see how this makes sense. Like I'm not sure, but like because like I don't think he explained this fully yet. But like I kind of like see the sense there of how like it being a portion of the overall revenue can end up being weird in this specific situation when now you have AI artists who are like clogging the playlist spots, taking the views and taking like not at, is like who downloads Spotify so they can like listen to their favorite AI music creator. Like, I don't think that's a thing.
it is rampant online. Hundreds of thousands of songs are uploaded every single day, and over 40% of those are estimated to be completely AI generated. Now, I don't want to see AI content anywhere. I have no respect for the people who use it, and I cannot wait for all these companies to run out of money. But at least when like an AI YouTube short blows up, that doesn't
very low
financially
quality
affect
content, but I'm not
everyone
AI.
else on the platform. On Spotify, though, it does, because again, there's only a finite amount of money to go around. According to a website called sloptracker.org, just the top 10 songs from just 50 AI artists are responsible for millions of dollars being taken away from actual artists. And this is a very small sample size. Now, some people have tried to theorize that these songs could be a low-cost way for Spotify to attempt to recoup some of the royalties they owe. Because if there just so happened to be a song on the platform that Spotify owned the rights to, then that percentage of stream share would get redirected right back into the company. And I'm not accusing them of that, but at the very least, they're certainly not doing anything to stop it. And even if they don't agree that AI art is inherently theft, the way that these artists have become so prominent is extremely suspicious. There's another website called Song Stats, which for pretty much every artist shows a graph of how their Spotify playlist reach has fluctuated over time. You'll probably notice that these tend to be all over the place. For real musicians trying to get their work listened to, it's a roller coaster. It is completely unpredictable. And now let's take some of the top AI artists and look at theirs. That's an interesting shape. That doesn't look like the other graphs. This is Inley, who currently has about 800,000 monthly listeners. And look at some of the playlists she's been in. Blues Mix, Morning Glow. These are official Spotify playlists. Here's one of the biggest ones I found, Breaking Rust, whose music sounds like it was trained on 30 hours of Chevy truck commercials. Just a few weeks after they released their very first song, they were already on playlists seen by 3 million people. What about The Velvet Sundown, who a lot of people were debating about last summer? Day one! The day they put their music out, they were already in these giant playlists. How is that possible, right? How could anyone look at this and say that it happened naturally? Whether or not Spotify is personally responsible for making these things, their immediate and completely inorganic rise to fame is suggestive of something that should be against their terms of service. I mean, they remove the music of legitimate artists all the time, usually for much less nefarious statistical anomalies. So why is it that specifically with the Velvet Sundown, they turn the other way? I don't know. I'm just asking questions. Follow-up question. Can you guys watch this brand deal real quick? This video is sponsored by Opera. If you're a
It is like
serial
an
tab
interesting
opener like I
question.
am, then Opera
What
is
is
the
the official
perfect browser to
explanation?
help you clean up the mess before it gets out of hand. You can easily group them all together in tab islands and even color code and
Oh,
name
these
them
tabs
to
are
keep
kinda
all your
cool.
little
I like the
detours
new
separate. This is
Firefox,
great for
like,
me when I'm
side
researching
bar
videos
menu
because I'm
for
constantly
tabs.
falling down
It's pretty
rabbit
good.
holes, so being able to organize it as I go helps it feel
don't
a
know if
lot
that's
less
new.
cluttered and overwhelming. They also have a feature called Tab Traces, a visual indicator that underscores the ones you visited most recently. The darker it
Oh,
is, the
that's
more recent you
cool.
clicked on. It's very subtle, but it honestly makes a huge difference when you have a bunch of tabs and you're
Yeah.
trying to remember the one you just looked at. And Opera makes things even more streamlined for me since I know that there's certain things I can
I've
always
been playing this
access
game
from
recently.
the sidebar. Messaging apps, social media websites, and even a built-in music player that syncs with all the biggest streaming services. My favorite thing about this is that since it's integrated into the browser, it'll automatically pause your music when you start watching a video. And speaking of videos, they even have a video pop-out feature that lets you move whatever you're watching into the corner or to the side or even outside of the window altogether. And just like that,
Okay,
you're now
Firefox
a
has that too.
professional multitasker like me. You can download Opera
might
for
be a
yourself
little-
by clicking the link in the description or in the pinned comment below. Thank
Very
you, Opera,
loyal to
for
my web
sponsoring this video. In the
browsers.
early 2010s, in an effort to increase engagement on their app.
I don't know, like, so right. I actually, this is kind of related because like we're looking at like graphs and shit, you know? Um, I was one of those people who like to look at like the web browser, like market share across different web browsers. When I was like 12, I would like stare at those Wikipedia pages. It was so interesting to me. Okay, let's continue learning about music.
App. Spotify began a heavy push towards something they call lean back listening. The idea that music isn't so much a piece of art to be intently listened to, but rather just like a constant hum that plays in the background of whatever you're doing. So they began to curate and promote playlists based on activities or vibes. Are you studying? We have a playlist for that. Going to sleep? We have a playlist for that. Breaking the news to your cousin that even though there's undeniable chemistry between you, the two of you can never be together simply because society deems it wrong.
Where's the playlist?
Believe it or not, playlists. The popularization of playlists and the wrong.
Wait,
Believe it or not,
you have to tell your cousin. You can still Alexander Hamilton.
playlist. The popularization of
Wait, that was
playlists
added
and
very
the
recently.
opportunities that
That
emerged
had
for
to
all
be
the
him.
artists that got picked to be in them
should
actually
look
changed
closer.
the way a lot of music got made. Artists would start reverse engineering the writing process to appease the algorithm. Songs got shorter, they got simpler. They would start
Yeah.
with the most interesting part because as long as people got through the first 30 seconds, it would count as a play and then your stats would go It's too risky to have a slow burn intro because you're just giving the listener more opportunities to skip it. And if they skip it, it tells the algorithm that your song sucks. And then they're never gonna put it in a playlist and no one's ever gonna listen to it and you're never gonna make any money and you're gonna be working at Popeyes forever. But while artists were busy trying to figure out how they could navigate the system, Spotify was hard at work pulling their own strings in the background. In 2017, the same question started getting asked by more and more people. Who's making all these random ass songs? And why are they ending up in so many playlists? Artists with a stock photo as their profile picture, with no bio, no website, no contact information, nothing that would indicate they're a real person trying to become a working musician. And yet some of them have songs with tens of millions of plays. Because, like a lot of the AI artists of today, they were snuck into official Spotify playlists. Again, no proof that Spotify's behind any of these. In fact, I've even seen one example of them outright denying it, so I'm just gonna take their word for it. But I will say, they also denied similar allegations in 2017, and that turned out to be a flat-out lie. No, we don't game the system, bad people do. And we're good. Turns out, no, actually. Several musicians have since revealed that they used to have a gig with Spotify where they would just record a bunch of like 2-minute long instrumentals that then Spotify would upload to their platform under random pseudonyms. Just a bit of investigation revealed hundreds of artist profiles accounting for millions of dollars in royalty payments that Spotify gets to keep because they're the ones who commissioned it. And it's not like people were going out of their way to listen to these songs. Spotify has the power to force them in front of as many ears as they want. want. Former Spotify
Yeah.
employees have talked about how strongly they were urged to prioritize these songs while curating playlists. Liz Pelly, in her book, uncovered internal documents that showed they even had a name for this: perfect fit content. And by 2023, hundreds of these massively promoted playlists were filled almost exclusively with these kinds of songs. Even weirder though, the source of a large percentage of this music, a company called Firefly Entertainment, is owned by someone who has a lifelong personal relationship with one of the higher-ups over at Spotify, and he's made hundreds of millions of dollars in streaming revenue the past couple years. That's one hell of a coincidence. Now, an important detail here, and what I hate to admit makes this kind of a smart move on their part, is that the playlists they did this on tend to serve as background noise. So not only are people less likely to notice if a song is not as high of quality, but by nature, these playlists are designed to be listened to for way longer than you would an actual song by an actual artist. Let's say one of your favorite bands just released a new single and you love it. Over the course of a couple weeks, you listen to it like 100 times. But also every night to fall asleep, you put on a gentle ambient piano playlist and let it run for 8 straight hours into the morning. Well, unfortunately, that means that at the end of the month, about 99% of your subscription revenue has contributed to a bunch of anonymous, faceless stock
Kind of
music
like
that you weren't even awake to hear.
React
And the
content too.
remaining 12 cents goes to your favorite band for them to spend
I'll say it.
however they want. It's not like real musicians don't make this kind of music. They used to get picked to be on these playlists. This used to be a huge source of traffic and revenue for all of these small independent artists that Spotify pretends to care about. But now they've all been cast aside. They used their music to popularize these playlists before slowly replacing them with songs that they own the rights to. In 2018, they wrote a blog post about this instrumental guitarist named Lance Allen, whose life was changed when one of his songs got picked up by Spotify's Peaceful Guitar playlist, and within a couple of months, he had started earning enough revenue from streaming to pay his mortgage and even buy a new car. He was propped up by the company as an ultimate success story, a personification of this new era of self-sufficient musicians. Now, they ran this blog for 2 reasons. One, it makes them look good. It helps them brand themselves as the artist empowerment company. Remember when we saved music? Remember when we did that? But the other reason they posted this is because it's an advertisement. If it can happen to this guy, it can happen to you. You just need a little nudge to get started, and we can provide it for you. It was around this time that Spotify started rolling out more promotional features specifically targeted at artists. Marquee ads, playlist pitching, this entire campaign kit that's often presented as more of a necessity than a luxury. They know that a lot of struggling artists are desperate for a break, and by using people like Lance to show that a better future might be possible, they're now able to monetize that desperation. They have made millions of dollars off of independent artists by selling them on a dream. Just a few years after this blog was posted, after using these kinds of stories to advertise their promotional tools, Spotify had all but abandoned people like Lance. In 2023, he took to Twitter to express how impossible it had become for him to compete with the stock music farms taking over the platform. And today, when you look at the same playlist that once helped jumpstart his career, there doesn't seem to be a single real person on it. The final evolution of Spotify flexing their muscles in the face of independent artists was a tool they released in 2020 called Discovery Mode. By opting your songs into it, you increase the likelihood of having them recommended across the app, and in exchange, Spotify gets to keep 30% of your revenue. Pretty quickly, a lot of people in the industry were comparing this to something called payola, a common practice in the 1950s where labels would bribe DJs under the table to play their songs on the radio, gaming the system and making people think they were way more popular than they actually were. Payola became the subject of a bunch of lawsuits, investigations, and even arrests before being outlawed in the 1960s. But like a lot of things that used to be illegal, just give it enough time and someone will find a loophole to make it okay again. The argument that Spotify makes to try and differentiate their program is that you don't have to pay any money up front. You pay on the back end. So it's different, but it works exactly the same way. The order of the transaction doesn't really matter when they've gone on record to brag about how many artists they've gotten to sign up for it and how many hundreds of millions of dollars they've retained as a result.
But first, let's talk payola. That's pay for play.
You cannot buy your way onto a playlist.
If anyone offers you pay for play to get on a Spotify playlist, it's a scam.
Hey, you can't give money to some website to end up in a playlist. That's wrong. If you want to get in playlists, give that money to us.
It's a scam.
Now, you might have been thinking through the past couple sections, Drew, this is all very interesting, and you're looking weirdly handsome today, but I don't listen to Spotify.
I like his hair.
So none of this affects me. And it's important to point out that the algorithmic boost given to these songs applies to every method of discovery
Apple
across
Music
the
now.
app. So that could be auto-playing after you
So
finish
I'm
an album,
okay,
any
right?
radio
Surely.
mix from a song or artist, your Discover Weekly, your daily mixes. Hell, even if you just accidentally click the shuffle button twice and turn on this stupid feature, you are being served songs at a disproportionate level. Even though Spotify has long been putting less emphasis in their officially curated playlists and more in their individually generated ones, ones, they're all still made using the same algorithm. An algorithm that is increasingly being influenced by pay to play. It's honestly kind of crazy that Spotify is able to monetize the same product in both directions. Listeners have to pay in order to hear music that artists have had to pay in order to be heard. They created a problem in order to sell you the solution. Discovery mode is often described as a win-win for everyone, even though that's literally not possible, because it's not creating any more revenue, it's just distributing it differently. If it was truly a win-win for both artists and Spotify, well then everyone should sign up for it. But then what would happen if every single artist did? Whatever algorithmic boost they received would then be offset by the fact that somehow everyone else needs to get boosted too. Effectively, nothing would change, except of course that Spotify would get a 30% discount on every single song that ever plays algorithmically. And from looking into it, it kind of seems like this is already starting to happen. I'm wondering if they reached a point where too many artists signed up for the program and now it's not able to do anything because there simply aren't enough plays to go around. Don't worry though, I can almost guarantee that in the next couple of years, they're gonna put out some revamped discovery mode, a higher tier of visibility for just a little bit more. Wait, you're still only giving away 30% of your revenue? Yeah, good luck with that, buddy. Everyone else is giving away 80. In the early days, Spotify was able to use their giant pool of investor money to inflate artist payouts to make it seem like it was worth putting their music here. And so they did. Everyone did. And now they don't have to overpay to convince people anymore. Artists are gonna come here no matter what. They have to. The industry runs through Spotify. Their subscribers have multiplied to unfathomable numbers, while the cost of that subscription has increased every 14 months like clockwork. And yet, individual streams for independent musicians have never been worth less. And now we're at the inevitable part of every tech endeavor's life cycle where the priority moves from gaining market share to strictly profitability at all costs. So they will continue to cut corners and underpay for content and inshitify their product, hoping you're too loyal to take your business somewhere else. Meanwhile, their CEO, who is richer than any musician in the history of the world, has used that fortune to invest over $500 million into a company that makes strike drones for the military. In a world full of terrible corporations run by awful people, Spotify seems determined to vault themselves up to the top of that list. And yet, when it comes to music, they're still not even the biggest source of evil. Historically, music has always been a top-heavy, exploitative industry. Young artists would get signed to aggressively long contracts that they didn't fully understand until years later when it was too late because they were trapped in it. In the 1990s, Prince went through a years-long public dispute with Warner Brothers over creative and monetary disagreements. It got so bad that in protest, he changed his name to an unpronounceable symbol. The label tried to use his publicity stunts to frame him as this, like, spoiled, crazy diva, but he was just fighting to be paid what he was worth. Sure, he was making a lot of money, but it still paled in comparison to what Warner was profiting off the back of his labor. And when he was finally able to get out of that deal and self-fund and self-promote his own work, he proved that he had been getting screwed over because he made infinitely more money even on tours and albums that were less commercially successful. In 2007, after their record label was unwilling to renegotiate with him, Radiohead put out their In Rainbows album online using a pay whatever you want model, even if the amount that you wanted to pay was $0. And yet, they made more money distributing it this way than they had from all of their previous records combined. But it does beg the question, what the hell kind of deals were these guys signed to where they could sell millions and millions of albums and barely see any money from it? Well, for starters, it wasn't uncommon for artists to be owed a single-digit percentage of the revenue made from their work. Not that they owe 5% of it, right? That's how much they get to keep. Even on the high end, that number tends to be about 15. When you first sign that deal though, you're not worried about that because the label is gonna lure you in with a number that blows your mind at a time in your life when you're probably broke. So when they offer you an advance of say $250,000, you're gonna say, do you have a pen? Where can I sign? And you're made aware that that money isn't actually yours to keep, that it's just a loan that you have to pay back, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever, you'll figure all that out later. For now, what matters is you're confident in yourself and that number represents legitimacy. You made it. You are a professional musician now. So you go and record the album while renting a lifestyle that you're not yet able to afford. And if you're lucky, that album does well. Really well, actually. You sold 500,000 copies. Your music has already generated $5 million. Great, I'll take my 15%, I'll deduct the advance, and I got a pretty sweet payday for myself. Well, not so fast there, rock star. we're not done subtracting. The advance wasn't the only loan. Every single resource we provided to you needs to be paid for as well. The deal was you had access to them, not that you get them for free. So we're just gonna make a few small adjustments, and before you know it, you somehow owe more debt than the amount we loaned you to start with. With each subsequent album, you only fall deeper and deeper into financial ruin. And you're one of the successful ones. But as bad as this is on paper, it's usually even worse in practice. Because oftentimes, the other companies that you as an artist are forced to do business with are also owned by the record label. So per the contract, we're able to deduct certain production costs before we calculate the amount that you are owed. Well, the thing is, we actually own the factory that produces all your CDs. And so the price for that is, how do I put this? Whatever we want it to be. We can say a bunch of them broke, we can print and sell records we never even tell you about. Dude, we can pull numbers out of our ass. The more money you earn, the more deductions we'll come up with to offset. And this process is never an accident. It's very much part of the business model. For example, back in the 40s and 50s, vinyl records were pretty fragile, which made them susceptible to breaking or scratching in transit. So to account for this, there would generally be a flat, like 15% reduction in revenue owed to the artist. Now, if common sense were to be applied, you would think that as the industry moved away from vinyls and into nearly indestructible CDs and cassettes, that this charge would go away.
Totally.
It did not. Even into the digital era, where we're talking about MP3 files, many of those breakage fees were still incorporated. It is total nonsense. It is highway robbery. An accounting firm that was referenced in this book, who was responsible for thousands of audits regarding hundreds of millions of dollars in royalties, could recall only one time ever where the audit revealed that it was the artist who owed money to the label. I can't believe they just kept making the same error over and over again, and it always worked out in favor of the labels. That's crazy. There's so many coincidences in the music industry. But we're still not done, because even then, they're not just gonna give you that money back. They're gonna look you in the eyes and say, what are you gonna do about it? Sure, if you're successful enough, you could try to take on a lawsuit and fight a battle that, best case scenario, could earn you a decent settlement, but most likely you're not gonna wanna do that because they have all the resources in the world to out-lawyer you and waste all your money until there's none of it left. So they'll offer a fraction of what they owe you and hope that it makes you stop whining. But be careful, you might have pissed them off. They might be holding a grudge against you. That next album that you owe us, you still have to record it, you still have to pay us for it, but we're not gonna put it out. I hope you enjoyed making music while it lasted, because that's over now. This is the kind of exploitation that happens when power gets consolidated at the top, when the labels that you can't live without control every part of the machine that you are forced to use.
Artists generate so much money for so many people that have nothing to do with the creative process at all. There's no road you can go down that the artist isn't fucked.
But things started to change pretty drastically in the 2000s. The rise of the internet brings on Napster and eventually LimeWire. For the first time in decades, overall music revenue is declining. But remember, most of that money was going to record labels. So they were also the ones losing the most of it.
You see, I'm not a Napster fan. It seems to me like people are getting ripped off.
It's interesting because the artists don't get paid anyway.
Piracy may have been bad for the music industry, but in a way, it might have ultimately been a good thing for musicians because it caused a long overdue disruption. It took power out of the hands of people who'd been abusing it. Then social media starts to take over. Suddenly fans can talk directly to their fans on MySpace. They can post about their shows on Facebook. The labels are now losing their status as the gatekeepers. Many of the marketing tools they offered, the things that they were able to justify taking 99% of your money for, were kind of becoming obsolete. Fast forward to today, anyone can upload music to a streaming service. Anyone can build a fan base. And in fact, a label won't even think about signing you unless you've already built a pretty big following online. But then at that point, it's like, what do you even need them for? You've done the hard part. They're probably just gonna swoop in, take as much of your money as they can, and then drop you as soon as your fans move on to someone else. So then the question is, how are they still able to get away with it? I thought we democratized the music industry. How do the labels still have so much power? Well, this is where record labels and Spotify intersect. Now, when you talk about record labels, there's a whole bunch of them, but there's really only three conglomerates that matter. Sony, Universal, and Warner, sometimes referred to as the majors or the big three. Thanks to their obsession with gobbling up every single thing they come into contact with, they now own about 70% of all recorded music in history. I cannot emphasize enough that anybody who tried to do what Spotify did did, which was to put every song ever made in one place for a small monthly fee, couldn't have made it even 1 inch without bending over backwards for the record labels. It doesn't matter how good their user interface or algorithm is if they didn't have the music that people want to listen to. So the majors have always had extraordinary leverage over them, and they've maximized the hell out of it. They negotiated massive advances from Spotify with no guarantee that any of that money would trickle down to their artists. They got a bunch of free ad space that they would typically just sell with no guarantee that any of that money would trickle down to their artists. And they also received a significant amount of equity in Spotify, about 18% total. I think maybe the most insane detail I learned about while making this video happened in 2018. At the time, Spotify is quickly becoming the industry standard. Their user base is growing every year, the company's getting bigger, but they want to open up the floor to more investors, so they're ready to launch their IPO. But around the same time, their licensing agreement with the big three labels was about to expire. Oh my God, talk about leverage. The labels had Spotify by the balls. They could have renegotiated just about anything, because if they didn't like the terms, they could have just taken all their artists off of the platform right before they go public, and it would have completely destroyed them, because who's gonna invest in a music company that doesn't have any music on it? So what did the majors do with all this power? Well, they negotiated their rates down. They asked for less money. Why would they do that, you're asking? Are they stupid? Well, we need to refer back to that pie chart from earlier. Now, even though most of these royalties end up going to record labels, some of them end up in the disgusting hands of independent artists. And we hate them. Their greed is ruining an otherwise perfect business model. But then even the money that does go to the record labels has to be shared with all of our stupid artists. And we hate them just as much. Sure, we've already made it so it's as small of a percentage as it could possibly be, but it's still not nothing. We'd prefer if it was nothing. If only we could leverage their work to make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars without having to owe them a cent. Well, here's where that equity comes in. When they lowered artist royalty rates, Spotify became a more valuable company. This meant their stock price went up, and the majors could cash out for more. They figured out how to get paid anyway, but with money that their artists have no contractual claim to. But that wasn't the only benefit for record labels, because they also have something in their contract with Spotify called the Most Favored Nation clause. And what that means is that nobody else outside of the big three is allowed to negotiate higher rates with Spotify. So when they lowered the rate for their artists, they in turn also lowered it for everybody else. Even if you don't work with a label, they will still find ways to screw you out of money. Now, unfortunately, record companies hoarding the majority of the money their artists earn for them is nothing new. It's been a staple of the industry for at least the past century. But the good news is live music is thriving, ticket sales are high, and musicians of all sizes are being fairly compensated. At least according to an article I just read from March 9th, 2020. Wait, let me make sure nothing drastic has changed since then. If the record industry is a story of three companies owning all of the music, then the live event industry is a story of one company controlling the entire mechanism by which concerts operate. Since merging in 2010, Ticketmaster and Live Nation have bulldozed their way into a monopoly that controls every part of the transaction. Not only do they own most of the biggest venues, but they've made it so the only way you can buy tickets to those venues is through them. And now that you have no other choice, we can charge all kinds of exorbitant fees. Service fees, processing fees, convenience fees. Come on, guys. Isn't this convenient? And the monopoly goes in every direction, since most artists are forced to work with them as well.
If they want to take 10% of the revenues and call it a facility fee, they can and have. If they want to charge $30,000 for the house nut, they can and have.
Some good news, the government sued Live Nation back in 2024, a lawsuit that recently reached a settlement. One of their processing fees, which was revealed to be pure profit and didn't actually cover any costs, is now illegal. The bad news, they just moved it over to a service fee instead. At least with streaming services, you can say that the customer is getting a good value. $12 a month for 1 trillion songs, and I can listen to the Hours of Silence podcast. The prices aren't the problem. It's just what happens to that money later. But with live music, Ticketmaster's monopoly only drives prices higher and higher and higher. Couple that with a rapidly worsening economy for the average person, and attendance rates are going way down. Some huge artists with massive streaming numbers have had to cancel entire tours because not enough of their tickets were selling. And yet, if you ask Live Nation CEO, he'll say they're still not expensive enough.
Average concert price is $72. The concert is underpriced. It's like a badge of honor to spend 70 grand for a Knicks courtside. They beat me up if we charge $800 for Beyonce.
One of the biggest causes of price gouging is the resale market. Now, an artist might try to set a maximum ticket price on one of their tours because they want as many of their fans as possible to be able to afford it. But unless they have enough negotiating power, there's nothing stopping the secondary ticket market from swooping in and ruining it for everybody else. A 2016 law called the Bots Act was supposed to make it illegal for scalpers to use certain technology to buy large quantities of tickets and resell it all for a profit, but Ticketmaster could not give less of a fuck about that. When a ticket gets resold through their website, they get to collect service fees on it twice. One, when the scalper first bought it from them, and then an even bigger fee when they resell it for a higher price. The resale market is a huge factor for why tickets have ended up so expensive. But it's important to remember that any of that profit from a resale doesn't make its way back to the artist. To them, the transaction ended when the first sale was made. So even though they tried to make the ticket more affordable, their fans still had to pay twice as much anyway. Only that entire profit ends up in the hands of Ticketmaster and the person or company who resold it. Which sometimes is also Ticketmaster. The artists lose, the fans lose, but the giant company wins again. Now, these had all been growing problems for years, but where shit really hit the fan was during COVID. The industry got decimated, especially for smaller venues and musicians. But many of the ones that did survive have seen their profits drop to an almost unsustainable level. I wanted to ask some touring musicians about the business side of things, so I drove up to Gainesville, Florida to talk to my friends Sergio and Andrew, who at the time of recording were about halfway through their tour with the band Dance Gavin Dance.
Let's break down like a tour. We do 2 buses, 1 bus for the band and 1 bus for the crew. And then we have a semi because we have production, lighting, and all of our sound gear, all of our in-ear monitors, and then all of our backline. So our amp. So when you do all of that, now you've got probably $300,000+ right out the gate for a month plus long tour for just transportation. That doesn't cover gas, which is higher than ever.
Let's say, you know, a fan spends, just for math's sake, $100 on a ticket. That's a lot for a fan to spend, but you take all these costs away and all of a sudden the amount of that's actually going to the band, what percentage goes to everyone who reaches their hands in?
Management agent, just on our team's side of things, 30%. Already gone. Your Live Nation, your extra fees, things like that, that's usually an extra 10%, sometimes 15, in some cases 20. The abstracts would be your expenses, usually about 50%, sometimes more on bigger tours. That leaves maybe $10 to $20 out of that ticket that goes to the band, and then that would be split 4 ways. So let's say it's 20. If there's 4 members of your band, you're each getting $5.
Now, Dance Gavin Dance.
Yeah, that might be a little bit of money taken out. And okay, I have heard RuneScape music for the past 20 minutes, and I'm glad to know that it was actually the video and not me having something open.
Dance is doing well for themselves. They're one of the bigger touring bands out there right now. But by extrapolating this cost structure out to most bands that are a fraction of their size, you can see how it's becoming increasingly difficult to turn a profit from touring. And that's kind of a problem, because historically speaking, that's where most of their money is supposed to come from. I'm nervous for the future of the industry for the same reason that I'm hopeful about it. People are always gonna make music no matter what. It's an intrinsic part of our lives. It's one of humanity's oldest art forms. Most musicians would make music for free. They would do it even if they lost money. It just sucks that a lot of people know that, and so they seem determined to make sure that they do. I think the best way to support musicians, especially if they're independent, is to try to buy directly from them. Bandcamp is a great way to do this. Your money's gonna go a lot further there than it is on streaming services. But also physical versions of music, CDs, vinyls. I love collecting vinyls. I've been doing it since before I even had a record player. Nobody wants to sell you objects anymore. They just want you to sign up for a cloud subscription service. But I like owning physical objects that I can touch and look at and that represent a piece of art that I love. The fact that I can also listen to it is kind of just a bonus. Streaming can be great for music discovery. I mean, sometimes it's nice to just have a machine play a bunch of songs until they find one that you like. I canceled my Spotify a couple years ago, but I still use YouTube Music because it's included in premium and I was already paying for that anyway. And I found a lot of cool bands from it. It's a useful service. But I also don't want to take it for granted, you know? Just because it was easy for me to discover an album doesn't mean it was easy for them to make it. If someone's music adds value to my life, I want to try to give some of that back. And I don't think the 2 cents they're getting for my subscription revenue is gonna cut it. Now, what I wanted to do for this video was secretly put out some of my own music and document the journey of trying to be an independent musician in 2026. But obviously, music takes a lot of time. You gotta learn an instrument, you gotta write something, you gotta learn how to record it, you gotta put it out, you gotta figure out what the hell DistroKid is. It's not the kind of thing you can just pull out of your ass in a couple of months, you know? So I decided that if I was going to do it, I should probably start 4 years ago.
Okay.
In 2022, my friends CJ and Julian asked me if I wanted to go jam with
This goes
them in a
crazy.
U-Haul storage unit, and I said, sure, why not? Even though I knew
They got
why
the
not,
horde
because
flag.
the thought of playing guitar in front of other people made me want to shit my pants. But I also knew that sometimes
But-
the only way to grow as a person is to do stuff that scares you. I wish it wasn't. I wish you could grow just by playing on the computer. But pretty soon we started practicing once a
surreal.
week and then twice a week. Then our friend Kevin joined the band, which meant that Julian and I could both play guitar instead of taking turns pretending to know how to play bass. At that point, we had already written a bunch of songs, so we decided it was time to play them in public.
Made me want to shit my pants.
The first show we ever did was an open mic at a kava bar where, for some reason, I wore the shortest shorts that I own. Our next show was at another kava bar where we were way too loud, and then we played a hardcore show where we were way too quiet. This show was a nightmare for me. Nobody liked our music. I said thank you like 100 times, and during the last song, which was supposed to be like our big heavy closer, I was getting so much feedback from my amp that I had to turn off my distortion pedal, and then no one could hear me. And since our music is instrumental, it's kind of important that people can hear the instruments. I left that show questioning my entire existence. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I should just give up.
So
and then
cool.
our next show was the best one so far. We did a couple more shows here and there, but then we took a break to focus on our real goal, which was to make an album. We had the space to record it. We had started buying the equipment. Kevin was learning FL Studio. We had a bunch of songs. So instead of just dropping like 1 or 2 singles and moving on, we decided we're not going to put anything out until we finish an entire album. Plus, how long could it take, right? 3 months? 6 months? 2 years! Turns out when you're 4 adult men with 4 adult jobs, 3 if you don't count YouTuber, there are only so many hours a week you have to devote to your instrumental emo band. So finally, after months of staring at the back of Kevin's head, we exported the album. We hired our friend
actually
Alexa
so
to do
cool.
the artwork. The only direction I gave her for this was like, I don't know, maybe something with a bird on it. And then she hand painted this beautiful masterpiece. It's actually too good. It's better than our music. For real though,
crazy.
we're all extremely proud of this album and the work
That's
that went
really
into it. And we'd
good.
love it if you gave it a listen. It's like half the length of this video, so you can't tell me that you don't have time. You could have listened to it twice already instead of watching this crap. Actually, for all I know, you could have already listened to it. We put it out back in March of last year. So here's what the past 15 months has been like. At first, things were better than I expected. We had a couple of the YouTube videos get like 100 views right away. One of the most gratifying moments of this entire process was getting like 3 comments from people saying, I don't know how I got here, but this is really good. At one point, I saw that somebody Shazammed one of our songs, and
Oh
we
my
talked about
God.
it for a week. So everything was going pretty good, and then like a month later, it completely stopped. Turns out it doesn't matter how much time and effort and money you put into music. If you throw it up on streaming services and don't tell anyone about it, it's probably just going to disappear into the void. There were weeks where I'd get an email from Apple that were like, hey, just letting you know, nobody listened to your music this week. Keep up the good work. It really does feel like we
Wow.
put a drop of water into the middle of the ocean and we're just waiting for people to find it. I guess it also probably doesn't help that our band name has terrible SEO because it's a word that
Yeah.
already exists but that we purposely spelled wrong. On some platforms, you can't find it even if you're going out of your way to. But a couple months ago, I decided that it was
really
time to
funny.
lock in and that I would earnestly navigate some of the artist engagement tools the internet shoves in your face. I had started using the band's Instagram page more to post about shows and connect with some other bands, and I could tell that already Meta had all of the information they needed to categorize me into what I can only assume they call their desperate artist program. Because suddenly every single ad I got was about posting banner ads on Spotify or having a website analyze my songs so they could pitch them to playlists. Oh my God, this interface is so predatory. They are doing everything they can to convince you that they're on your side. What do we get out of this? Nothing, man. We just want to help a brother out. Now, if you wouldn't mind giving us $40. And what the fuck is this? Your analysis is expiring in 10 minutes? How? What are you gonna forget? My trepidation turned to joy though when they told me that my sophisticated arrangement makes me stand out from amateur producers. Wow, I'm flattered. They also told me I had a 74 hit potential. I had no idea. Who was gonna tell me I was sitting on top of a gold mine? Out of curiosity, I tried another one of my songs. It's called Golden, and I wrote it for the Netflix original movie K-Pop Demon Hunters. And oh my God, the craziest thing happened. They told me almost the exact same shit, except they only gave this song a 72. That's right. My instrumental guitar band has more commercial potential than the 7th most popular song of 2025. Well, I guess that confirms it.
It's worth the 50
They're just
bucks.
lying to me to try and get my money. Or they're telling the truth, and I'm gonna perform at the Grammys. Better get my credit card out just in case. Before I fully give up on this website, though, I do want to try one more track.
Such a silly
It's kind of
show.
niche. It's a little
Video,
vulnerable,
that's
but
the word.
I'm just curious to see if maybe somewhere out there's an audience for it. It's called 1,000 Farts, and it's an hour long. And would you look at that? This one has the highest score so far. This could very well become the most popular song ever made. The more I engaged with these ads, the more it confirmed that I was interested, and then any future ads I got seemed like they weren't even really trying that hard. Yeah, we actually don't know anything about your song. But just give us $100. Come on, what's the worst that could happen? You die? I don't think that could happen from this. So just give us $100. I swear on my
Good
life,
argument.
I will try my absolute hardest to get you on Top White Girl Music 2026 Songs to Sing Along, Best Song to Listen to at Parties. And if that
Okay.
doesn't work, we could always try one called The Best Songs Ever. Sure, that seems like a realistic place to start. The sheer flood of similar websites honestly made me distrustful of this entire cottage industry as a whole. But for the video, I wanted to try at least one of them. So I ran a campaign on SubmitHub. Now I have no idea if this is any more legit than these other websites, but at the very least, I think it's been around the longest. But just like the ones from the ads, immediately asking for $100. This time though, I paid it. And then for the next several days, I physically winced every time I opened my email to see a roundup of the process so far. Rejection after rejection after rejection. Everyone generally had nice things to say. Hey man, this sounds great. You guys should be proud of this. I'd fucking kill myself before putting it on any of my playlists, but good luck. I'll give SubmitHub a little bit of credit for at least being transparent.
I
You
would
can
give my
see
feedback.
exactly how the curators listen to your
That's
song.
cool.
The problem though is that in some cases, how they listened to it was barely at all. I also realized in hindsight that I probably shouldn't have let them auto-pick the curators after guessing my genre. And I should have tried to find playlists with music that sounds similar to me and then manually targeted those. But at the same time, the one playlist I feel like we probably had the best chance of getting on didn't even listen to half the song or give any feedback. And this cost me money. I had to pay this person. The low point of this process for me was when SubmitHub emailed me an AI summary of all my rejections. I also could have just copied and pasted them all into Grok, but thanks for doing it for me, I
But they did
guess. Not really sure what
ChatGPT.
I'm supposed to do with this. None of these people wanted our song. What, am I gonna frame this on my wall? Yes. For a little over $105, I ran a couple of decent meta ads, received entrance into one playlist that will, at best, net us a handful of streams, and I got a ChatGPT summary of everything I'm doing wrong. Now, I'm not saying that my bad experience should discount all of these services entirely. Obviously, it works for some people, some of the time. But it sure seems like this is just yet another opportunity for one more pair of grabby hands to lunge towards your pockets as you try desperately to make waves in an endless ocean of content. The more oversaturated music gets, the more common these kinds of websites will become, and the more people who will try to profit off your optimism before it runs out. Getting anybody to give a shit about our music felt impossible, but at the same time, it didn't really bother me that much. Because we didn't make this music with the hopes that it would like go viral. We made it because we wanted to. We wrote the exact kind of music that we like to listen to. This album only exists because we made it exist, and no amount of rejection emails will ever take that away from us. A lot has changed for us the past year. Julian left the band, and we've had to kind of reconfigure as a three-piece, but we're still writing a lot of music, and we still play shows every so often. If you want to see more of what we end up doing, follow us on Instagram. We also have a
That's
YouTube
cool.
channel that I'm going to post some playthroughs on, and I'll probably throw some other random shit out there too, so subscribe if that's something you're interested in. I do have to mention, though, the incident. On May 27th, we played a show at Will's Pub. We were opening for a really cool band, I Met a Yeti. It was an awesome night. Everyone had a great time. But somebody took a video of it and put it on TikTok, and now everybody knows my secret. I cannot believe
so
that I
funny.
successfully hid this from the world for 4 years, and then like 2 weeks before I plan on making a video about it, someone else beat me to the punch. Not cool, bro. But I guess it just goes to show
That's
that
crazy.
everything I said in this video was a total fucking lie. Music's easy. What are you guys whining about? All you have to do is be a YouTuber for 9 years, but don't make any music. Not yet. Once you've given it at least 5 years, you can start a band with your friends, but don't tell anybody about it. It needs to be a surprise. Without the surprise, this doesn't work. Just keep chipping away at it in the background. Spend an unbelievable amount of time and money on it. Record an album, release the album, make $18 from it each, and wait an entire year. Only then can you play a show at a local bar in Orlando, have it recorded by a random stranger who uploads it to TikTok, where it goes medium viral for a couple of days, probably less so because people like the music and more so just because it's kind of interesting you're even doing it at all. And that was my master plan. It may have taken me almost a decade, but it was all worth it when I saw our monthly listeners on Spotify go from a measly 109 all the way up to 175. Wait, is that
That's
it?
so sad.
That video got like 1 million views. Even in just the past 4
Holy
years since we started
that's
dicking around in that storage
crazy.
unit, I feel like I've already seen corporate greed price out so many artists from the industry and so many fans from being able to participate in it. But I also realized that there's a thriving local scene that I had no idea about until I started going to shows and meeting all these really cool musicians, a lot of whom are now
Lives
my
in
friends.
Orlando,
Maybe it's
too,
not always
like-
realistic to spend $300 on nosebleed tickets at a sold-out arena, but who knows? There might be a free show happening right now at a non-profit venue inside a bowling alley. Your new favorite band might be performing at a bar 2 miles from your house.
Music is worth making. And if you feel the need and you feel the burning passion to want to make music or art or in general, do it.
Recruit your friends. Get out and meet people. You might not be able to film your own music video, but your friend has a camera and has a film experience and wants to get involved in a project. Develop your friends. Develop each other. Like, get into a scene of people and build those relationships up from the ground up. And I think beautiful things can come of that.
This is a really cute video. He did a really good job. Ending with the call to action to like get involved in your local music scene. Like, great clickbait title, but then like he also like just got into like the ending of that was so cool. I'm like really impressed because I feel like you can tell that he was like deeply passionate about music and what he was talking about. Um I and that is really awesome. Wow, we're like really early to this video. Yeah, let me refresh this page actually just to make sure we have the most updated comments. So there's not really much to like look into. I guess here we can check out the band like 6 hours after release. Okay, they're getting viewers. 1.5K subs. It's crazy. They got 3,000 Instagram followers. Whoa. Yeah, that's cool. This is a good video. I'm happy we watched this. And he cares. He was uploaded in the middle of the month. No, you could tell how much he cared. Next serious video will be Democracy is Broken, and he'll reveal he's president at the end. I would go crazy. Such a funny concept. YouTube video comes out and someone has to spend the next 45 minutes on the toilet. You may not be legally allowed to say it, but I will. Spotify. I think there's a pretty good reason to think they do. I think so. I think you're valid for suspecting it. Baby bird. Yeah. Feel bad for that one girl tracking her period with Drew's upload cycle. That's insane. Yeah, Spotify Shuffle is so bad. That's like the main reason I swapped from it back like years ago. Here, what? How long ago? Like, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this guy like does not upload videos consistently anymore. But like, he's pretty based. I enjoy his videos. You need to watch more of these. We watched this one. There's so much more. Anyways, we will do that at some point. It's kind of interesting how my Spotify constantly notifies me of new albums of popular artists like Taylor Swift or Drake, but not smaller bands that you've consistently listened to for years. Yeah, that stuff is really annoying. Yeah, his content like ranges so much. I like how he handles the serious topics. Yet another instance of Drew doing something and going completely unnoticed while Danny gets found out the second he does something. Yeah, that is like Drew Gooden does have a recognizable face. Like it's not hard. I don't know. Wrote his diary on his two Kung Fu Panda 2 DVDs. One day we'll watch that video, I'm sure. Huh. It was such a cool video. I need to get into my local music scene. I live in Gainesville, which it was crazy to see that mentioned in this video. But we have a pretty good one. Like it's vibrant as far as I'm aware. Need to like go to shows. Go outside. I work evenings and weekends, which sucks for going outside. The one struggle, really. But hopefully that'll change. Anyways, I think that's good for this video. I'm happy. This is really good. We will watch more Drew Gooden. That is the plan. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend or week. Today is Wednesday when I'm uploading this. I'm a little bit late today. That's okay. I was playing RuneScape. I'll surely get better. As long as we're still uploading daily. Anywho, have a great rest of your day. Thank you for watching. Bye. Hey folks, thank you for watching the video. Remember to like on YouTube, follow on YouTube, subscribe on Twitch, and have a great rest of your day if you want. I guess I don't really tell you what to do, but yeah, have a good one. Bye.